Hello, I'm Joan. I'm a Canadian family physician who also works as a restorative medical educator, facilitator, and coach. I create spaces that rehumanize the work of healthcare. I'm creating this podcast to remind myself, as well as anyone else working in a helping profession, that when you are working and caring for your human patients, you are the other human in the room. Hey there, healthcare humans. Before we dive into this week's conversation on the podcast, I wanted to let you know that this is actually our very first sponsored episode of The Other Human in the Room. And I want to tell you a bit of the backstory of how we got here. So I'm always looking for different ways to support the production of this podcast, which I do completely by myself. And I was looking for sponsors that would be kinds of services or products that help folks in healthcare make their experience of healthcare feel more human. And I was really looking for companies or services that I would be happy to recommend, whether or not they ever agreed to do a sponsored episode of the podcast. And I can say confidently that Pippen AI, who is the sponsor of this podcast, fits that description. So Pippen AI is a scribe that's made specifically for Canadian family physicians like me. And when I first heard about it a few months ago, I knew I had to try it. So I did the 30-day trial, and then I started paying for it and even upgraded so that I could get more of the features. And then I reached out to the company to suggest that we do a sponsored episode here. So I've already put my money where my mouth is. If they never agreed to do a sponsored episode, I would probably still be talking to you about it. But I'm very grateful to Pippen AI that they agreed to do this collaboration. And I'm so excited to speak to their co-founder, who is another Canadian family physician, about how Pippen AI came to be. And I'm happy to share my honest experiences of how it's been for me to use this particular scribe. So if you are interested in trying out Pippen AI, they have a 30-day trial for anyone who wants to try it out. And if you happen to be a Canadian physician, I am aware that Canada Health Infoway now is offering a program where you can get funding for 1 year of free access to an AI scribe, as long as it's one of the ones on their approved list. And Pippen AI is on that list. So I will include links in the show notes of how to go sign up for the free trial of Pippen AI, as well as how to apply for that funding. But I'll actually say that if you go with Pippen AI, they will apply for that funding for you if you sign up with them. That it made it so easy for me, and I got an immediate fee reduction because now I'm enrolled in the Infoway program, which is fantastic. So that's all the information I wanted to share with you up front. Enjoy the rest of the conversation. Hello there, healthcare humans. Thank you so much for coming back for another episode of The Other Human in the Room. I am really looking forward to this particular conversation because though I've been in the same online space with this particular healthcare human, I haven't been able to have a direct conversation yet. So I'm really looking forward to getting to know you better. But first, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much, Dr. Chan, for having me on your podcast. I go by AJ. I'm Dr. Kadhim-Saleh. I'm a practicing family doctor. I have 7 years of clinical experience working as a comprehensive family physician, and I'm also the co-founder and CEO of Pippen AI.
So you didn't have enough to do already. You had to go like co-found a whole startup in your spare time, right?
Yes, yeah. No, honestly, I didn't look out to start this venture. It kind of happened. I wasn't looking to get into this. I didn't have
Mhm.
background in like sort of tech, but it
Oh,
was it was sort of calling me to sort of take up this initiative. Yeah, I can tell you a little bit more about that, but essentially. It was I really just wanted to leverage something that would help me in my clinical practice.
yeah.
As you know, like with us in medicine, there's a lot of burnout, and at some point I was sort of really experiencing that, and I called my wife and I said, I don't know how long I could do this for,
Hmm.
and I've only been doing it for 5 years at the time. So we said, well, let's figure out like what can we do? Like let's leverage technologies. Let's see if we can cut down on time. So I was like charting, just like to give you like a concrete figure. My last appointment for the day was like at 3:50. So I'm supposed to be done, let's say by 4, right?
Yeah.
Or 4:15 or 4:30. Well, I wasn't done until 7. Uh,
Yes.
so it felt like my evenings, my weekends, holidays, it was like all of these things were being stolen from me. And so then at the time we looked at what's out there, and there was not much out there actually in terms of how good the technology was at the time. There was, I believe, you know, I think there was like some pioneers who were trying to fix this issue, and we tried to use it. We had a demo, but it was really clunky and it wasn't working. And so we said, well, why don't we sort of put our heads together and try to solve this? Um, my wife is she's completing her PhD in epidemiology and data science with a
Oh,
focus on AI, and so this AI technology was coming in. We're seeing how like you can apply it in different industries, and we felt that this would be the right thing to pursue. Yeah, so that's how I got into it. I wasn't planning to do this.
that's
Yeah.
so interesting. So actually, your wife was a big inspiration and co-creator of the initiative. Hey, it sounds like.
Very much so. Yeah, like it couldn't be done without her. Yeah, and so like of course the initial support, and she is my like co-founder, so we're working on this together. Yeah, day in day out to make it a success. My vision is to actually make it something that family doctors everywhere use. That this is their go-to resource. And really was actually beyond just supporting the charting. It was thinking about how can we bring this amazing technology to the doctor's office,
Mhm.
and sort of have all the privacy and security and the accuracy like sort of around it to protect it. And so there's so much more work to be done. But yeah, it's been really exciting learning about all the all the tech stuff along the way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, like, how does that work? Like, how do you go from having an idea like that, which
Yeah.
we're smart people and we're often, it's hard to turn our brains off. So many a physician might have a cool idea, but you're already burnt out. You're already overwhelmed. The main job can already sink you. Like, what actually helped you to take it from an idea to a real product and company that other people can benefit from?
Yeah. Yeah. Actually, um, I think like yeah, I've been talking about this actually with a number of colleagues who asked me the same question. I think what it comes down to is one is actually having the team, right, to support us.
Yeah.
And one thing about us family physicians is people see us as leaders, whether we like it or not. They do
Hmm.
see us as leaders, and we have this sort of pull on people where if they see that we have a vision for something, they actually rally around us. And I've experienced this before. Um, so our first venture is actually building our own family medicine clinic. So same, me and
Wow.
my wife were saying, let's do this. And so we actually built our own clinic straight out of residency. So during residency, we purchased the real estate, we designed it, developed it, and then now we have over 5,500 patients in our clinic that we
What?
serve.
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh.
Yeah, and but at the same time, like when I was doing this, I was in residency. So PGY2, I started like looking at that, and actually the same experience happened where people rally around us. I found a partner who wanted to sort of like support us. Went to different banks to get the loan, and they usually would say, you need to have at least 2 years of like real income
Yeah.
as a practicing physician before we give you this. And meanwhile, I was PGY too, so I didn't have much income. And in fact, I was like $170,000 in debt.
Yeah.
And they're like, but we don't even know if you're gonna graduate. So I had to like prove to them that the success rate is so high.
Wow.
But really, like again, same thing happened where there was one banker who saw what we were doing, sort of believed in us, and sort of pushed to get this project going. And we like we I finished residency in July, right? And the clinic was opened end of August. So I was seeing
Whoa.
my first patient within such a short period of time. Yes, I think for us, like family physicians, people see us as leaders and they rally around us, like when we have a vision. Yeah, and for me, I was just thinking long term, like how can we sort of even though you're right with what you're saying, like I yeah burned out, overwhelmed, but I felt that I needed to build something to sort of think about like the long term to address this problem.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I really relate to that mentality because I think it's very tempting and common to get stuck in the mentality of this is just how it is. So I have to just like put my head down and grind through it or accept my fate that it's just always going to be this terrible. And I've always had trouble sticking with that script. I'm often trying to find a way to make my life feel better. And though it can expend more energy sometimes, I don't know about you, but it feels easier to expend energy where I know it's like if I put in this work now, it's going to make my life better later.
100%. Yeah, I think for me, like what's really motivating is like when I build a system that will sort of pay off in the future.
Yeah.
So yeah, so there's many examples of that where I felt yes, it takes longer to do the thing initially, but eventually it's so much better. So in the clinic, for example, like we've had many examples where we develop systems like we have, for example, a scheduling officer that like I trained her to look at the schedule ahead of time, see if there's appointments that are, inappropriately booked or the schedule looks really crazy and like sort of proactively make changes. And
Yeah.
for some clinics that does need a bit of time, right, to do this, to set up the protocol, like it's like the rhythm protocol, we have to do a bit of training. But now it's like I rarely see that appointments are being inappropriately booked, and that's such a huge saving because yeah, prior to this, there were like many types of appointments, like for example, a dermatology related question without a picture and like booked virtually, right? So it's
Mm.
wasting our time. Or like a PAP that's booked for like 10 minutes, and then you look at it on the day off and you're like, this is not
Yeah.
good. But you can't change it last minute. So yes, exactly. Yeah, yeah.
Oh, I love that. Yeah. Thinking, um, also, I love the theme that is clearly been important for you too, which is not thinking you need to do it on your own. Like the
Yeah.
only way we get all of this complex work done is with a team. And it can be hard, I think, depending on how you were socialized and sometimes how we're trained. Yes, we're trained as leaders, but we're not always trained to effectively manage other people, or
Mm.
it depends on who you were working with and if you had good role models. But sometimes we can get into that mentality of like, I can do it better myself, you know? But it takes a little time. Probably your scheduling officer wasn't perfect at first and there was
Hmm.
learning to be done. But now you're reaping the benefits where actually overall everyone's working more efficiently.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, I think you're right. There's two things, and I've learned this from hearing other doctors talk about it. I think we're risk averse, like
Yes.
naturally, because we're dealing, in medicine, you want to be careful, you want to be a bit perfectionist as well, right? Uh, and that makes sense. Like in clinical sort of practice, you want to be on the side of caution
Hmm.
to protect patients. But there are many things that we don't have to because it's not really like clinical per se that you can leverage someone else who can probably do it better if they're like fully focused on it when you're being pulled in many different directions and you don't have the same sort of attention focused on that one item. So yes, I think you're right. Like that, like we have to keep that in mind when we
Absolutely.
approach new things. Yeah,
Yeah. So, getting back to the scribe,
yeah,
I'm curious. So, you'd already maybe tested out some very early versions of scribes, and you
yeah.
saw an opportunity to make something that was more, like from the start, was it you want to make it specific for family physicians? Because that's what drew me to the scribe when you had said on this panel we were on, like, oh, this is made for like Canadian family physicians and it has these extra features. I was like, I have to try it. So, was that your intention from the beginning?
Yes, absolutely. So really, when I was thinking about it, what was to again bring this technology to the family doctor's office, have all the layers of protection around it, privacy, security, accuracy, and then have sort of family doctors use it in their own ways. So charting and ascribing was one piece of it. But from the very beginning, sort of I envisioned it that it will help us with drafting referrals, help us fill out forms, help us with billing, optimization, and then just asking additional questions. So the beauty of it is you actually have access to the whole model at your fingertips, and so you can let's say after you get your note. You can say, can you draft me a letter for X, Y, and Z? So I use it for ADHD consults. So I do the consult, I'm doing the diagnosis, and then I can literally ask it to say, map the answers from what the patient said to the ADHD criteria. And it will just say, DSM-5 criteria is this, and this is the answer verbatim what the patient said. And it just does it
Wow.
instantly. And then I could ask a follow-up question like, this patient is a student and they're asking for a letter of accommodation, given that they have ADHD, and it will give me it will draft that letter based on the conversation we've had. So it's creating all these different ways of efficiency, and I imagine like another family doctor will have a different focus, like maybe they're focused on obesity or more mental health or something else, and so they can use it in their own way. Yeah, so yeah, I'm really excited. We have so much more work to do, but I love that we're focused entirely on family medicine.
Mhm.
So this is our sort of main focus, and what we're working on. There's so much more that we want to build for family doctors. Yeah.
That's cool. Yeah, like I loved how well, I'll share my experience. Is that okay? That I
Yeah,
think that'd
of
be fun
course. Yeah.
because I'd already been using another scribe for about a year, and it was working very well as a scribe. So like if I just wanted to keep using a scribe, I might have just stuck with that because I already know that one, right? But
Hmm.
when I started trying out yours, what I realized is it also had these extra features. Like the billing one was fun to play around with, but the two things that I've definitely used the most, one is the referral letter, because it's Chat GPT ish, where you can like write in these prompts like you say and like customize.
Yeah.
Um, Another thing that, because you can customize, I've used a number of times, which is classic family medicine, is when there's multiple patients in the room. And whether they were booked or not, maybe someone else is bringing up an issue. And with the old scribe, it was very like based on, you had to have it like this patient start and stop, and like so you have to like tell the patient like, hold on, I got to switch over to the other person. But I
Yeah.
tested out being like, let's let it run. And
Mm.
when it first populates it all together, but it'll say like, patient and then mother or something if it caught the context. But then what I say is like generate individual notes for each person, and then it
Mm.
generates them separately. And it's rarely wrong. Every so often it like gets confused, but then I'm just like, no, the knee pain was the mom. And then it corrects it.
Wow. Oh my gosh. That's so cool that you're doing it in that way because I haven't used it in that way.
You
So that's
haven't?
so cool. I have yes, but you're absolutely right. It does it knows like who's saying what, and that's
Yes.
because the model that we're leveraging is diarizing the conversation. So it'll say speaker one, speaker two, speaker three, and that really improves the accuracy. So yeah. So
Oh,
yeah, so some models they kind of like put all of it in one like blob of text,
yeah.
and so then the model doesn't know who said what. It kind of infers based on the conversation, but but it could be inaccurate. Like I had one of the doctors that use our platform was telling me that he switched to us because previously he was using another scribe and he would talk about his own like sort of personal medical experience as a way to relate to patients.
Yeah.
So for example, he would say, "Oh yeah, like I had cataract surgery myself and this is my experience." But that previous model, with a different vendor, it didn't know that, so
Mm,
it thought that it was the patient
yeah.
who got cataract. So anyways, he switched to us, and like you said, it knows the difference, which is really cool. Yeah.
I actually remember that from yes, once I rarely bring up my podcast, but that's one sticks in my mind because it was so funny where one of my patients had heard of my podcast. And then so we chatted about it a bit at the end. And then it said, the script was like, patient has a podcast, the other human in the room. And I'm like, oh no, that's like not only not relevant, but also like inaccurate. Like they got mixed up about who was
Right.
who.
Yeah.
Um, and you know, that can happen, but it's useful, like you say, accuracy up front means that there's less need to edit after. Though of
Exactly.
course, always need to edit after.
Hmm.
But the thing I love is like in terms of like cognitive load, the difference of the cognitive load of me like straining to remember and like generate words versus editing words. Like even if they've gotten something quite wrong or a little wrong, the energy it takes me to just say like, no, that's wrong and like edit some text is way less than me writing it all out to begin with.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I think the cognitive load is a really big one. So
Yeah.
there was that OMD study with Women's College Hospital, and the big finding is that it reduced, I think 80% said it reduced the cognitive load, which is humongous. Like you think
Huge.
about, yeah, what are the things that really bog us down? It's probably that when you're trying to solve, you know, like in my practice, patients are bringing up 3+ issues in one visit. So
Yeah.
I'm seeing, 30 patients a day. That's 100 problems that I'm, solving
Mm.
in one day, right? Doing clinical work. And then you have to write it all down,
Yep.
right? And think about, all of these things. So at least having that, Pippin work in the background and generating that for you, it's such a reliever, right?
Mm.
And
Yes.
patients jump around too, so they're going from issue one, then they jump to another issue, then they third issue, then they go back to number one. So it's so hard to like strain and think about that, right?
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
yeah.
Have you noticed that how it has changed your workflow in patient appointments? Like the one that I'm still working on is making sure I narrate my physical exam. Though when I remember to do it, I find that patients aren't weirded out, and often they're actually quite interested because it means that I'm actually explaining what I'm doing more than I would otherwise, where I'm just like poking around and being like, it sounds good. Like,
Yeah.
have you noticed some of those like change management things you've had to do for yourself?
Yeah, honestly, the biggest positive thing is just this idea of having a natural conversation with the patient.
Yes.
Like I remember, so we launched Pippin a year ago, and May 1st is like when we first did it in our own clinic to,
Oh,
to test it out. So I remember that first day, how it was like a shift for me because I was like typing away, right? So typing away, talking to the patient because I don't want to miss anything, right? And then, on that, even that first day, it's like I'm switched. I'm now facing the patient directly and just like having a natural conversation with them. And it actually is even a time saver during that interaction itself, because you're not like pausing the conversation, having to write things. You're just
yes.
talking to them, you're engaging fully. And then on the physical exam, I usually, yeah, just narrate it, but in a very plain language.
Hmm.
So I would say something like your heart sounds are good, your chest is clear, and actually, again, the patient's response to that is you're way more attentive, right? Because you're
Hmm.
like telling them what you're thinking, what you're doing. Even like in my assessment, like sort of how I say, yeah, I think most likely it's this. To be safe, we're gonna do X, Y, and Z, right? And they're so much more like sort of engaged in that conversation.
Yeah.
Whereas, like possibly, I was still doing that before, but possibly like another doctor would just like come back with a bunch of paperwork and say, okay, you do this and this and that, and then they're not explaining sort of what's happening.
Yeah.
So from a patient perspective, it's actually been positive, I believe. Yeah, to have the doctor like sort of focused on you and explaining things. Yeah, so it's been
Yeah.
really rewarding that way, actually. Yeah.
Oh yeah. And I haven't used it too many times, but a couple of times, like one of the other things, again, because you can put all these prompts in afterwards, like I think it would be tricky to generate a handout to hand directly to the patient because you usually want to wait till the encounter's over to close it to generate the note. But most of my patients have email. So there's been a couple times where then I like email, hey, this is what we talked about during this appointment. And it's
Hmm.
got all of, it doesn't say the whole thing. It just literally, it's like, you can say generally like patient summary or like
Right.
handout about what like patient instructions, and it will just email them that part.
Yes. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, that was another thing. So the customization now you can use in your own way, and then um, one of them is the patient summary, where it's like this is sort of like the most important things, that we talked about, and this is the plan of action. It's
Hmm.
still helpful because, yeah, again, patients may not remember all of these things, so it's really enhancing care in that way.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
That's so good. And then the other features that again were like, oh, okay, now I can see why even in some ways it's cost savings for me to change to it, because I was also using an AI platform that like reviewed evidence and guidelines, and then they started asking for. I'd used it when it was like the beta version, and then they were going to pay for it. So I was like, oh, do I have to pay for this too? But now, like, I know it's. I think it's still labeled as beta. But I sometimes will open up a conversation, but actually I'm just
yeah,
using the text space, and I'm just asking it questions the way I'd like Google. But like
yeah,
I'm like, what are the doses of this? Like you can look up stuff in there. And at
yeah,
first, honestly, I was skeptical because you know how when you look up stuff in ChatGPT, sometimes it literally makes it up and it is
yeah,
nothing, and you're like, oh, that's actually completely not true. So I would like
right,
double check it with UpToDate or something. But I
yeah,
found it to be extremely accurate with like true like medical doses, differential
hmm,
diagnoses, like those sorts of things. So how
yeah.
did you build that part in as well?
Yeah, so this is amazing. So we're leveraging like these massive foundational models that are trained on like billions of data points. So we didn't
Wow.
build this ourselves. We're
Yeah.
leveraging sort of best in class foundational models, and they have a ton of training. Like I said, like billions of parameters for it. And so what it does is it pulls like from that massive knowledge, right?
Yeah.
And it gives you sort of like relevant information to what you're looking for. So yeah, like I think like to first like understand like the context of this, you have to like see what can we do outside of this technology, right? And then,
Mm.
like let's say you have a bit of a difficult case, right? This is not your bread and butter, UTI or something. This is a bit more difficult. And the options we have, and what I was seeing is one, people just Google it, right? Like they Google the information. Two is they go on up to date,
Yeah.
which is obviously, amazing resource and, evidence based and all that. But up to date, at least even till now, it just gives you articles, right?
Yes.
So you're like, okay, fever in a child who traveled, right? And it wouldn't really, you know, understand like that context, right?
Yeah.
So it will just give you articles of the different, different things to read, and that's really challenging to do, to understand and maybe or maybe not relevant. And then people were also just kind of asking colleagues, right? So they would
Mm.
post a case on a WhatsApp group or Facebook, right? Again, it's an option because you're dealing with a difficult case and you want to get information. Um, but all of these have problems, like the posting on Facebook. Obviously there's privacy concerns, and then you get very different answers
Yes.
depending on time of day and who's available to answer your question. So
Hmm.
not super reliable. So then when you compare those are the options to now you have access to this incredible technology that pulls in data from billions of parameters, right? And it gives you that like sort of in a streamlined, instant sort of fashion. That's so helpful. I will, we always sort of have a disclaimer to say use your clinical judgment
Yeah.
of like, you're seeing the patient in front of you, you have your clinical judgment, which AI cannot have.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, from a resource that's super helpful. Yeah.
It
Um,
still is helpful. Like even I probably still double check most of the time just because I know how AI can be a little funny sometimes,
yeah.
but there's something about how it synthesizes it in a way that it's like it's as if the whole UpToDate article just went to the part that actually answers my question, and then I look and I'm like, oh, is that Oh, is that true? And then yes, it is.
Yep.
Where? That's so cool. So I love that. And then you can turn it into a patient handout, or you can, it's neat how then you can turn it into all these different
Yeah.
forms.
Exactly. Yeah, it's so like yeah, it's so helpful to get that information.
Yeah.
Sometimes I ask it to like teach me about something, right?
Oh,
And again, you can of course go to other resources and learn and verify and everything, but it can actually explain things in a much easier way. So yeah, when it comes even to like med ed and like the learning, there's so much more advancement in this. But yeah, I've asked it before to like teach me about something, and then we'll just give you like such a good answer to to create a bit of context and understanding,
cool.
and then you can of course like sort of delve deeper into more sources. But yeah, but it's incredible. Again, it goes back to this idea of like just bring this technology to the family doctor's office, and then they, us, we can use it in our own ways, right? In
Yeah.
our different ways. Yeah.
I'm just trying to think of all the ways I use it, mostly because, well, first of all, I want to let you know because I think that's
Yeah.
helpful for you. And then for those listening, so they can think of it if it would be helpful for them. The other thing I've liked is the format that it comes in is easy to use on my phone as well. And I've noticed, even though my phone, auto goes to sleep, like it doesn't let it auto go to sleep. So then
Mm,
it
yeah.
will record on my phone. That is helpful because I've noticed sometimes when it's browser based and I'm doing a video visit, it doesn't like pick up the sound. I think it's like because of our computers are old or something. And so then even when I'm doing a video visit, it'll still pick it up. And I've done a few home visits and I don't want to have to open my whole laptop necessarily, but I still like record the whole home visit. And home visits are so complicated and you usually don't want to be doing notes. And so, I mean, that's been actually one of the greatest joys of like, look, it all just summarized it. It's been so fun.
So cool to see it. Yeah, like in home visit, yeah, I was doing that as well, and it's incredible to use it that way. Yeah, because it syncs across devices, right? So it's
Yeah.
based on the account. So if you use it on the phone, and then later on you go on your laptop, it's there, right? And then sort of you can use it that way. Yeah, it's very neat. So you use it for home visits. Have you tried the treatment options beta one, that prompt that we have as well? Um,
Uh, I know I ask, I'm like, what are the treatment options for, I don't know, dysfunctional uterine bleeding or something,
right.
and
Yeah.
then it tells me those. But is there other ways I could be using it?
Well, no, you can definitely use it that way, like in the chat with Pippin. But
Yeah,
on the side, there's pre-made prompts. Sorry, pre-made prompts.
right.
So there's one for differential, and then there's one for treatment options. So you can just literally just click that, and then it will give you the treatment options based on either when you're using the text or even when after you do like the scribed note. You can just
Oh,
click that, and then it will give you the treatment options. So it will sort of talk about lifestyle, medications, pharmacotherapy, and then procedures if relevant, and it just has that pre-made, so you're not even typing anything. You just click, and then you get that.
and will that work while you're still in the conversation with the patient, or only after?
No, that will be after.
Okay,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah,
That's
yeah. That'll
still
be.
so nice though, for especially the ones where you're like, I am so lost, I don't know what to do next, or and what am I missing? Like clicking that
Yeah.
and then seeing what it says.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
Cool.
you can definitely use it also like, yeah, create a new tab. So because we allow concurrent sessions, so you can have one session that is doing the scribing, you're talking to the patient, and it just, is doing the recording and everything. And
Yeah.
then you can open another tab to ask questions as, like as a additional sort of support.
Oh, I didn't think that would work. That is useful to
Yeah,
know. So then I could be like,
yeah,
generate this, and then I could be like, generate a patient handout about this, and I could give it to the patient in the
yep,
session.
yes,
AJ,
yep.
you're helping me make this even better. I love
Yeah,
it.
yeah. Yeah, it allows concurrent sessions, so
Oh,
you could
cool.
open multiple tabs and ask different questions in each one.
That's
Yeah.
amazing. So what's coming next? You said there's more to come. Obviously, if you can't
Yep.
reveal, don't. But
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
what are some of the exciting things to look forward to?
Yeah, absolutely. So first, like I'll say, we're constantly improving the core technology itself. So and we're so responsive. So like if any like doctor flags any issue for us, we immediately take it to the team and start fixing it. And so lately, there's I think one or two doctors who said, the note is a little bit slower to generate. And so
Mm.
then we went to the team and we said we need to fix this, and we updated the model. We just released it yesterday, I believe. Yeah,
Yeah, I
and
noticed the difference.
it is like 5 times faster. It's incredible. It's actually like instantaneous,
Yeah.
almost. And it auto copies the note, so you literally just have to paste it. Yeah, so I mean, these are like the kind of things. As we hear feedback, we improve it. We're pushing languages.
Mm.
So currently, it's in French, English, and Spanish.
Oh, cool.
Over the summer, we're going to expand to 30 plus languages.
What?
Yeah,
Oh my gosh.
yeah. So it's gonna be amazing. Actually, I'm really excited about this one. Is one of the models that we're gonna use allows different languages at the same time. So you're not even having to select like which language, for example.
Yeah.
If patients are like sort of patients and doctors are like switching between languages. So I did med school in Ottawa, and there's a lot of English French. People would
Yes.
switch between English and French. So you don't have to select it at the outset. You would just, it will understand either way what's happening. Yeah, so languages is coming. We want to improve our um, customization to bring templates of sort of different templates that doctors use and allow you to easily sort of import or exchange those templates. So creating that like community. So if Joan, you like a particular template and you recommend it to someone else, that person can just pull it into their accounts really easily. So we're streamlining that. And then big picture things would be really want to fix inbox.
Oh,
Um,
please help.
really want to fix it. Yeah, I mean, that's still a huge, huge burden.
Yeah.
And, an inbox is like this, when I explain it to people who are outside of medicine, they don't even know like what I'm talking about. They're like, "Don't you have like email? Like, what are you what are you talking about inbox?" And I'm like, "No, no, no. It's inbox is like everything gets dumped on it. Prescription renewals, labs, imaging, forms, referrals rejected, like
Mm.
just everything goes in there. Patient queries, like all of these go into like this inbox that is like clunky you know, and there's so many duplicates and so many inefficiencies.
Yes.
So yeah, I want to fix this issue next. So that's what I'm focusing on.
Cool.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah,
if
yeah,
you want a beta tester, I would be.
absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I'd love
That
that.
sounds fabulous because yeah, the way that I have really addressed inbox overload for myself is I have a nurse practitioner who sees patients, like she's seeing patients right now. And then on those days, she does my inbox for me. And then even one of the days when I'm in office, she does inbox for me, which is the best clinical day where I'm
Yeah,
only seeing patients and otherwise don't have to check inbox is delicious.
right.
And I know that that's not feasible for everyone or it can be hard to find someone or right. And still, even for both her and I, having automated processes that just like eliminate duplicates or having ways to sort them and like auto action or auto forward things. I don't know. Like,
Yeah,
there's so many ways that that inbox could be easier to manage.
100%. Yeah, like there's no reason like, I was counting clicks of how many steps I have to do certain things. One of
Yeah.
them is like ordering FIT, for example,
Mm.
for patients. It's so simple, right? But then you have to create that form, create a letter, attach the form to the letter, send it
Yeah.
off, right? And then I usually put a reminder to check on the results, like let's say 3 to 6 months later. So it's like 7 steps. I was counting it. Seven
Yeah.
steps to do that one thing, right? Or like you said, duplicates, right? That's another one. Or you get like, a 20-page document and, do I like how much of that is really, really, truly valuable, right? And it's usually like, I would love to just triage that and maybe extract the relevant stuff like the impression and the plan, right?
Mm.
So yeah, there's so many ways that we can sort of address that. Um, and the example you gave, of hiring someone to help you with it is we're having to resort to that, but it's costly. Um, right? So we're getting like sort of a pay cut by
Yeah.
essentially having to do this. Yeah, and so I think that's still a huge burden, and like every doctor I've talked to relates to this issue.
Yeah.
So yeah, hopefully we can address that, and you'll be a beta
Hopefully.
tester for us.
I
Yeah,
will so happily. I also love giving feedback, so like I'm so happy to test things.
amazing.
Um, and then I guess the other thing, either how you use it now, if you see other technologies that help, but like forms, because
Hmm.
like I definitely already use it. You know, say I have an encounter that includes disability conversation. Like I can see how it very well like turns it into say a letter. Like I did a WSIB appeal, and it was so easy because it wrote it all pretty and
Yeah,
official like, and that was great. But I have not yet seen, but I feel like it could exist where, say, you have a PDF copy of any kind of form,
yeah,
there's technology to read the text of a PDF, like even if it's scanned.
yeah.
Like, is that something you see coming where it will map it in onto the PDF for you?
Yes, absolutely. Yes, that's next for us.
Oh,
So
thank you so much, Angel. That's
yeah,
amazing.
yeah. We have so much more building to do. But yes, absolutely. So right now, um, the text-based like answers is amazing.
Yeah,
So yes, it can pull answers. So I still use it for forms like today, for example. So let's say having to fill CRA disability tax credit.
yeah.
Um, so based on the conversation, I'll just say, help me fill up CRA disability tax credit. And it will know behind the scene, these are the questions that CRA is asking for, and these are the answers based on the conversation you've had with the patient. So at least like it generates the text, but the next step is to actually produce it into a PDF,
Okay.
which will allow you to, yes, edit, in the PDF, for example, directly. Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
didn't know that it could actually, like I've sort of said, I thought I would have to put in, say, the questions, but like the fact that it knows the CRE disability tax
Oh
credit,
yeah,
and then I'm either copying, pasting, or I guess I could hand copy if no, I will not. But like,
yeah.
um, that's still like the cognitive work is still done. And then
Yes,
I
yeah,
would be filling it out. That's
yeah.
still
Like the
better.
the the questions and answers you can still get
Okay.
like really easily for like sort of well-known forms.
Yeah.
It understands this as part of like its database. So yeah, CRA, ODSP. Yeah, there's many different forms that it will just understand. These are the questions, and then
Wow.
it will answer it based on the conversation. Um, for obscure things like the example you gave, like this WSIB that had a very specific
Yeah.
list of questions for that particular patient, that will be you have to either put it in the text there, or sometimes I actually just talk about it. So as I'm like having the
Uh,
conversation with the patient, I'll say, okay, we need to fill out this form. Question one is about this, and I think we can talk about blah blah blah, right?
mhm.
And so then from that it will know that these are the questions and answers. Yeah,
Oh, oh
yeah.
my gosh.
So you could, I know,
That's
so
amazing.
it's so powerful. Yeah, you could use it in
Yes.
so many ways, but yeah, that's currently like how I use it. Yeah.
Okay. And then, yeah, again, as soon as you got the PDF version,
Yeah.
sign me up. I will beta test. That will be like, I think I might cry. Like the first day I used just any AI scribe, like I literally got tears in my eyes. I like had
Oh,
goosebumps because, and I'd already done a lot of work. Like my notes had gotten like uber short, like, really snappy. I
yeah.
wasn't going to let it drag me down. But it was actually so potent to see like more details that really, more thoroughly captured the visit. I didn't really ever recognize or document like how much counseling I do with patients and all of the advice I give them. Like I just be like, discuss side effects, discuss when to go to ED, but I wouldn't be like saying everything I'm
Right.
doing.
Yeah.
And seeing a scribe be like, discuss self-compassion and boundary setting. There was something so neat about seeing what my work was like reflected, and me not having to have typed a single letter.
Right.
It was profound.
Yes, totally. Yeah, absolutely. I relate to that too. Like I often, I'm a little more cautious, like just trying to think about medical legal risk and like sort of, yeah, counseling on, like you, sort of talking about the different side effects, when to go to emergency room, like, and I say that. And previously I had to like have all these different stamps, right?
Yeah.
To document that I did that, right? But it just becomes so hard because
Mm.
again, people are talking about different things, and so you're having to use five stamps in one visit to like really capture it, right? Whereas now it's just working in the background, and I could again have a natural conversation, and it just
Mm.
documents it for me. Yeah, it's really profound that way
So
too.
good.
Yeah.
What do you find are the main kind of like mental barriers that physicians have to overcome to try out an AI scribe? I hear about some, so I can share, but I'm curious which ones you've heard since you do this a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, I'm talking to probably like since we launched, I've talked to maybe over like 200, 300 doctors
Wow.
probably. Yeah, so I've thought about the different things. So one is initially it was all about like privacy and security,
Yeah.
right? Like, is it safe to use, right?
Hmm.
And I'm happy to say we've solved that problem. So we were, privacy focused from the very beginning. This is why, and we like sort of super compliant with like HIPAA, PIPEDA. We just got our SOC 2 Type 2 compliance, which is like that security framework. We have a trust center that shows all the different things that we do to ensure the privacy. So it's actually like people can see it on the website. These are like the 80 plus measures that we do
Mm.
to protect the data. Everything is in Canada, everything is encrypted and protected. Um, and that actually allowed us to, yeah, so that solves that initial barrier, right?
Hmm.
Mental barrier. The second one was actually pricing. There is pricing friction.
Yeah.
And the reason for that is, as you know, we pay a lot to overhead
Yeah.
already. And so the idea is, well, I'm already paying, 30% of my salary to overhead and staff and EMR and all that stuff, and now I have to pay for this other thing. So it was a cost barrier. Um, uh, Thankfully, now there's like this limited opportunity with the Canada Health InfoWay funding
Yeah.
that gives funding for a year, and so actually, like those licenses are running out. So if you're listening to this, go and grab it before it runs out. So then you can use AI paid for through Canada Health InfoWay program.
Yeah.
Really easy to sign up.
Well, you
So
guys signed up for me, like, because I'd already started, and
yeah,
I paid my monthly thing,
yeah,
automatically for my credit card, and then suddenly log into Pippen AI, and it's like, hey, the InfoWay program is up. Do you want to sign up? I don't even
yeah,
think I had to write. I just said yes, and then it immediately signed me up. It let me know shortly
yeah,
that I was accepted, and then you refunded me. I was like, that
yeah,
was the smoothest process like
yeah.
by a mile for like any kind of funding related to government. It was glorious. So thank
I'm
you for
so
doing that.
I'm so glad to hear that. Yeah, we really tried to make it as seamless and easy as possible.
Yeah.
Yeah, so and yeah, and as a like a pre-existing sort of user of the platform, yeah, we made it like super easy for you. And then for new ones, new doctors who are signing up, actually really simple process too. They're just putting in their name, email address, and then they have, I'm interested in the Canada Health Info Way, and then they can just sign up. So yeah, I'm super, super happy to hear that. The developers will be happy to hear that they made it as seamless as possible. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so the pricing friction is real, and hopefully with that funding is a good idea. What else? The other one is actually about EMR integration.
Mm.
Um, I think this is a bit challenging because
Yeah.
oftentimes, like we as doctors want everything in one place, and it makes sense. But sometimes that one place is really messy, and so
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
integrating it into it is actually not so helpful. So we tried to fix this by having light integration. So we have like a toolbar for PS Suite EMR. We have Chrome extension for browser-based EMRs. Um, but I've seen like sometimes vendors advertise that they are integrated, but then when you actually look at the workflow, it still takes you to another thing, and then
Yeah.
there's still some clunkiness there. So, so if doctors are listening, I would say, yes, I hear you on EMR integration. We are like sort of trying to figure out ways to do it, but just try it and see because honestly, the time saving you get from all of these things that we talked about is humongous. That there may be a way to overcome that, right? And we auto copy it, so the note is auto copied, and like we said earlier, it's super fast to get the note now. So within a few seconds, you have the note already copied, and you just have to paste it. It's
Yeah.
literally, you know, yeah. Anyways, one step.
One
So.
step. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think that's the third barrier. I'm trying to think what else. There is, of course, like the trust factor. Like, do I
Mm.
trust it, right? And I think that is very important. So we really wanted to address that from the very beginning by having all of these ways to ensure that the model doesn't like make stuff up. That is a risk. So in AI world, there's something called hallucination, where the model make
Yeah.
stuff up, right? But we really try to train it to avoid that and to minimize that from happening. So, for example, let's say you're drafting a referral letter. If it doesn't know the information, like let's say the age and gender of the patient, it will put it as a placeholder.
Yeah.
It will not actually say, it won't make up that this is a 35-year-old female or something.
Hmm.
So I think that's one way to overcome the trust is to see it, and then you start to sort of see that it's actually working well. The other piece is like this focus on accuracy, right? And ensuring that the quality of the note is really good, that it requires, little to hopefully no editing. Still read it and see for yourself, but I think that's where it becomes like sort of something that you can trust, right? Over time. Um, but the key thing is like Joan is like the more you use it, the better we get at it, right? And
Yeah.
the better things we can actually really enhance our like sort of clinical expertise, our efficiency, right? So I think the way I see it is over time, um, everyone is going to use it. Like it's
Hmm.
just inevitable that this is happening. So yeah, we can talk a little bit about like the philosophical thing of like what it means to have AI now as part of like our everyday life, but I
Yeah.
suspect it is inevitable. Yeah.
It is, I mean, I wouldn't mind even just for 5 minutes. I think it's a really interesting question because, you just see the full range of how humans respond to anything new and how people respond to AI, and they all are valid in some way, even if it's just emotionally valid. It makes sense to be skeptical or even fearful, and it is here. So no one is stopping it. And even if someone thinks it should be stopped, like it's very much that's not how it's going. Powers that be are not shutting down AI.
Mhm.
So yeah, for me, then the question is like, how can I use this in a way that amplifies and benefits my life?
Yeah.
So that's how I've experimented with using AI in different ways. Like I was telling you before we start recording, like the podcast platform I use uses AI and it makes editing like ridiculously way easier and even has like sound enhancement stuff. And like honestly, I wouldn't be able to put out the amount of podcasts certainly, and certainly like the like if I needed to edit them all, if I wasn't using this software, like I would not have the time or energy to
Yeah.
do it. So that's just one example of how it's like making my life better, you know?
Yeah, totally. Yeah, yeah. It's and when I talk to my patients, they're all using AI too in their respective fields.
Yeah.
Like, whether it's like salespeople who are using AI to, take notes and like
Hmm.
help them, with their outreach efforts, and people in the banking industry, in the legal industry. It's everywhere. I would say like, and I learned this concept recently. I didn't come up with it myself, but it was Dr. Agrawal who was talking about this idea that the models are getting better and better and better over time.
Mm.
And what they are getting better at is this prediction, right? So their prediction is getting much, much better over time.
Yeah.
And at the same time, the cost of AI is actually going down. It's
Mm.
reducing. Despite it getting better, the cost is going down. And so he was saying that the prediction cost is going to be so low, and prediction is going to be so much more effective. And so the idea is, imagine all the things that we can do if we can predict things much better, right?
Mm.
So, in the clinical world, let's say like figuring out like this SSRI will work best for my patient, like this particular one,
That would be
instead of
so
having to do the
amazing.
trial and error, right? Or yeah, there's so many examples where like the cost of prediction was going to be so cheap and it's so effective that we'll use it more and more. It's going to be ubiquitous. So then the question he says, well, then what do we offer, right? As
Mm.
clinicians, right?
Hmm.
What is our role going to be? And it's really interesting. And the answer to this is we have judgment
Yes.
that AI doesn't. That's the one thing we have
Mm.
that, as far as we know at this point, AI doesn't. And so we like sort of can lean into that more, right? By exercising our judgment. And actually, family doctors, like us as family physicians, we probably would be best suited for this because we're
Yes.
generalist, right? We
Mm.
think about all the big picture and how things are connected. So I think we're in a good position that way. If we lean into it and then just use this technology to support us.
Yep,
Yeah,
I agree. Yeah,
yeah,
though I understand the impulse for anytime someone's like, "This is coming for our jobs," whether it's AI or I don't know, nurse practitioners or something. I'm always like, "Well, there aren't enough of us to do this entire job." So I'm okay with everyone helping. Because, there's millions of people who have no family doctor or no access to
yeah,
primary care. And I don't think we get there just by like trying to more quickly train family physicians. Like the numbers aren't going to add up. We need to have ways for this job to be more enjoyable, frankly, as well as
yeah,
more efficient, more effective, all of
yeah.
those things.
Absolutely. We actually have a number of clients who were gonna retire. Like they were
Huh?
planning to shut down. They were like, "Yeah, I've had enough," especially, post COVID, right? And
Yes.
and sort of they were actually going to retire, but then this AI came in, and they're using it, and they're like, oh my God, like I think I can work for a couple more years. And it's
Wow.
it's really rewarding. Yeah, like I've personally talked to a number of doctors who are sort of saying they actually are finding joy in it. They're able to, go home on time. That cognitive load is being reduced. So yeah, so there's some real impact happening right now, and this is like what's really exciting me about being in this field.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And like, just think about your impact then, right? Because like you had a struggle and your wife had an idea along with you. So shout out to
yeah,
her as well.
yeah,
And now you guys are helping so many of your colleagues, which not only makes your job easier personally using it, but you know, it's nice to have less burned out colleagues because then everyone
100%.
has more bandwidth to connect with each other and support each other. Like, it's really cool what you're doing.
Thank you. Yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah, we're really mission driven to solve this problem.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's so rewarding to see doctors who are like using it and loving it, and it's making a big impact. Yeah, so thank you for that. Yeah.
Sure. Well, it is time to wrap up. As I warned you, I was like, I'm going to go for an hour because I always do. So the last question, well, two questions. One is, where can people find you and Pippin if they want to look into it more?
Yeah, absolutely. So our website is pippin.ai. So Pippen.ai. and you can sign up, you can see all about us. For me, you can find me on LinkedIn. You can email me directly at Dr. So Dr. Dot Kadim, Kadhim at Pippen AI. And yeah, you can find me on LinkedIn. I think I'm publicly visible, so everyone can find me on LinkedIn.
Excellent. Yes.
Yeah, so absolutely. Yeah.
Good. And then the last question I always ask is like thinking of those that are listening who are
Yeah.
folks in healthcare who want to feel more human in healthcare. They are looking for inspiration and strategies that will help them like more easily reclaim and retain their humanity and actually enjoy their work. And
Yeah.
so they've heard our whole conversation and maybe they've tried AI, maybe they haven't. But yeah, in general, what kind of wisdom or advice or encouraging words would you want to offer to those that are feeling overloaded and are looking for ways to feel more human?
Oh, that's such a good question. Um, it's honestly it's different for everyone.
Yeah.
So I would say, sometimes just taking a bit of time off sometimes can do wonders.
Mm.
Connecting with family and friends. Like this idea for Pippin came to us when we took a bit of vacation. We were like sort of on a road trip. I was burning out, and then we took this vacation and we did a road trip around Cabot Trail in Nova Scotia,
Oh,
and it was just
cool.
so wonderful, and just like our ideas were flowing, and that's when like this idea for Pippin came in. So honestly,
Mm-hmm.
sometimes just stepping back from it all can do wonders. And then I think the other thing I was gonna say is one of the cool things that I've been learning about is this idea of bias to action that I'm learning about in the tech world and the business world. And the idea behind it is you have to decide. You always sort of take an action, and the action could be stay the course. That may
Mm-hmm.
be the best possible action, but you're always sort of in control of, I'm going to make a decision on this. As opposed to, I'm not even going to decide, and then that means you are making a decision by just not doing anything. So anyway, so the idea is bias to action. So if there's something that that's causing a lot of trouble for you and really making a negative impact, then I think making a decision on that is key. And the decision may be, I'm just going to stay the course,
Yeah.
but you're in control and sort of decide maybe this is something to actually address. Whether it's bring a team, talk to colleagues, leverage existing technology, right? Whatever that is, but there is such a positive impact when you do this, and yeah, that's what I want to leave listeners with. Yeah.
I love that. I've never heard that term, but I recognize the the value of it. And my way of doing that is so say there's something where I'm like, oh, I want to read about this more, or there is a new thing I want to try. Like something that we probably as a clinic are going to try at some point is looking into those different companies that manage block fees for you and stuff. You know that whole
Mm,
thing. And we know that that will not involve just our own minds and energy, but like that would be big change management for our whole clinic. And so we know it's a no for now, but we actually kind of have on the timeline of when it will be, you know. So for big things, it makes sense to do it that way of like, yes, next January or whatever. And for something that's maybe a bit smaller, so like trying out AI might feel like a big thing, but thankfully it would just be you trying it out. But like literally put a block when's your next available appointment in your clinic? Can you put an hour block or something for you to
mm.
sit down, test it out? And maybe that won't be for a few months that you want to do that, but there's something about deciding when and actually having it in your schedule. So then the day comes and you haven't filled it all in with other stuff. That's been a very powerful like method of bias to action that works well for me is like my calendar.
That's so good because you have like a almost like a deadline,
Yes.
and you see it, and then it like sort of everything starts to come together when you have that sort of
Yeah.
written out and planned out, right? So
Yeah,
yeah, yeah,
exactly. And you're not just like in your mind being like, oh yeah, someday this. Oh yeah, and then it's all living in your brain. No, it's
I
just on
love
my
that.
calendar.
Yeah,
I'll get to it on that day. Yeah.
okay. So good,
Well, thank
so
you for
great.
all your time, AJ. This has been an amazing conversation. And thanks for all you're doing. I just always feel so grateful, and it really energizes me to know that I'm not alone in healthcare, just period, but also like I'm not alone in thinking through what can make our jobs better. It's so encouraging to know there's other people who are also making amazing impact. So like when we collectively all do this, like this is how we're changing healthcare.
That's absolutely right. Thank you so much, Joan, for having me. It's so wonderful to speak with you. Yeah,
Yay. All
thank you.
right. And everyone who's listening, if you want to check out Pippen AI, the links will be all in the show notes for you to check it out. And it is a free trial. I think, is it 30-day free trial if they want to?
Yep, yeah,
Yeah.
it is. Yeah.
So you can
Hmm.
test it all out. And otherwise, we'll talk to you next week. Bye. I would love to take this work deeper with you. Visit joanchanmd.com today and discover my growing menu of options for restorative medical education to suit your learning needs. I offer one-on-one coaching, customized workshops, and self-study courses that allow you to connect not only with my work on a deeper level, but also with other healthcare humans just like you. So if you want to start humanizing your work in healthcare to a deeper level and do it in community with others, please visit joanchanmd.com and find those options and what fits you and your life today.